So today we're going to talk about some topics that may not immediately seem related, but in actuality, they very much are. Strategic teaming and productization. This is the way. And if you think we're going to have a very technical talk with technobabble, this is not the case. So I've put this slide in just to get it out of your system. Instead, we're going to talk a little bit about people. And the origin stories begins with the genesis of the Agile mindset, which came from other schools, and it may even seem somewhat like common sense. But regardless of what we say Agile is about, it really was to address the need of bridging the gap that existed between business and development. Okay. And there's this divide, or if you will, a pit of despair between them. Each of them has attributes that are extremely important. For example, the business may be seen as having speed and money and imagination and market knowledge, and development has tech knowledge and are able to mold things and do magic with technology. But on the flip side, critics of the business may say that they try to do things with too much speed, or they're dreamers or demanding, unrealistic. The critics of development may say that they're unresponsive and slow and uncreative. And as a result, we may hear some things like engineering likes to over-engineer things, which makes all of us as engineers cringe. And on the flip side, in response, you may hear development say, tell the business what they can have. I don't care about what they want. And of course, those are not good things for building relationships. And so there was some discussion about how we can fix that. Kent Beck and Martin Fowler on the left talk about healing the damage that exists between business and development. And on the right, Martin Fowler talks about adaptive versus predictive planning, or in other words, learning along the way. And also kind of has this sentiment that Agile can be distilled into two distinct things: increased frequency of feedback and team empowerment. And basically through that, there was a desire to bridge the gap by bringing business need and IT capabilities together in partnership and understanding. So what is it we're actually talking about? We're actually talking about building trust. And so in response, there were 13 people that gathered in Snowbird that were industry leaders, including Kent Beck and Martin Fowler and Robert C. Martin. And they really started to brainstorm based on all the work they were doing in this space, how they could address the gap between business and development. And out of that meeting came the Manifesto for Agile Software Development. You'll note that it's not really called the Agile Manifesto, even though that's what it gets referred to. And one of these 13 has even critically said he doesn't like the name Agile Manifesto because it asserts that Agile is rigid, when in reality it's the values that go behind Agile that don't change. And the way they penned this was really, really brilliant. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. That is, while there is value on the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. And the reason this is brilliant is it's meant to keep us out of the folly of saying documentation is unimportant. All that matters is working software. But if we find ourselves focusing our energy solely on processes and tools without focusing on individuals and their interactions, or we're only focused on documentation and don't care about working software, it's a indicator that maybe we have our priorities wrong. And so if we buy into this idea that we need to bridge the gap between the business and IT or development, and we want to expand on the force multiplier of open communications and empowerment, we as IT can ask ourselves, well, how can we improve? And if part of that is understanding that we're not just a cost, we're a strategic enabler. And so there were a group of people that started looking at combining the key disciplines of engineering, operations, and quality. And in reality, that viewpoint is when DevOps was really born. And it's not the same thing as Agile, but it certainly benefits from it. And so you can look at it kind of like this. The business can provide us purpose, which gives us a context for the value that we bring. And these feedback loops and team empowerment, coupled with this idea that the teams are focused on the key concepts of engineering, operations, and quality, creates a powerhouse of opportunity. And it transforms our thinking from something that has a definitive beginning and a definitive end, like a project, and into something that's more infinite. Simon Sinek calls this the infinite game. It means that we've got a partnership between the business and development, working on something that's strategic and well-defined and continuously improving. We know who's involved, and we also hear some references to the fact that those who are involved should be able to be fed by two pizzas. Okay. And this concept is the beginning of what we call productization. Because without a product, what is it that we actually continuously improve? Product features are what are engineered, and it's products that are operationalized. And we get an understanding of what the product team can actually address based on the scope of what problems they solve today and the staffing that they have. And when a product gets so big that the team can no longer handle it, that product can be subdivided. So it becomes very, very important to have a boundary, a purpose, an objective for this product. And it's also important to recognize that this game is infinite, which means, like a house, once we own it, we're doing maintenance. Things like existing capability support, making sure that we're meeting our service level targets, and often overlooked but so extraordinarily important, providing education materials and doing marketing and evangelism of the product so that it can be discovered. Because the value in this is getting a group of people that are consuming this repeatedly so that we're not reinventing the wheel. And of course, the other thing is there's always going to be new requested function. So these things lead to the work that the consistent and existing product team addresses. Some of you might be thinking, well, we're not a product organization, we're a service organization. And it's important to note that all a service is a wrapper around a product with a well-defined interface on how you leverage the product. And so if we have well-defined products with understood boundaries, then we have an opportunity at looking at a catalog and solving problems with existing and known things. So, for example, if I have an email product, a portal product, a credit card processing product, and social media sales product, then there might be an opportunity putting those things together. And it's worth noting that the social media sales product might not even have IT capability specifically in the product. Oftentimes in modern society, there are programmers, but it doesn't have to be that way. It could be manual processes as well. But it's important that we understand what those boundaries are, because then we can start wiring them up to create a composite. And by doing this, the amount of predictability that we get in delivered solution goes up because we're using things that are well known. And there's another relationship with regard to time of realizing solution to reuse. And you might look at these graphs and go, Brad, why is one logarithmic and the other linear? To which I'd say, hey, it's my presentation. I'll do what I want. But in seriousness, I don't have data points, but here's what I'll tell you. Uh, with regard to predictability, that seems much more linear than the time to the solution, because when we're reusing, we don't have to go in and do discovery work to do market research to see what the best product is that we can leverage. And furthermore, if there isn't one, we don't have to go in and research which is the best way to actually realize a product. So it makes sense that there'd be more of a curve on time to realize the solution when we have reuse as opposed to predictability. And so the combination of these opportunities into a bigger opportunity means we can take many smaller products and create a new bigger product. And so the combination of email, portal, credit card processing, and social media sales may lead to an external commerce product. And this idea of stacking smaller known quantities to realize a new bigger one is something called emergence. And we see it in nature. For example, cells combine into tissues, tissues combined into organs, organs combine into systems, systems combine into persons. Now imagine we were masters at manipulating these objects. It would be much easier scientifically to realize a new person or a new organism if we had the blocks that built up to it than to say, I want to create a new person without any of these blocks. Well, the same is very much true with technology. And we might even identify a new type of capability that we want to plug into the overall ecosystem. So maybe we have a desire to get into the monitoring market. So we put a monitor on the table and figure out how it integrates with these other products. And suddenly we have an opportunity for an external commerce health monitor. But it's really, really important to know what the objectives and boundaries of these products are. That is really what leads to being able to create KPIs based on whether or not that product is doing what it should. And so as we move into the world of productization, I think of this gentleman who is Guy Kawasaki, one of the designers, an excellent designer from Apple. And he has a set of 10 tips for entrepreneurs looking to innovate. And those tips can be distilled down into, don't be afraid, get out there and make meaning. Making meaning means changing the world. Go out and do something that is meaningful to the world, and that will help to be successful. Create a mantra. So what does it mean to make that meaning? One of my favorites is, don't worry, be crappy, which doesn't mean produce things that are not of good quality. It just means you don't have to be the best at things when you get started, because it's important to learn. As an example, he tells the story of Apple and their origins, and especially going into creating the Macintosh. And when they started making the Macintosh, they thought they were going to build a competitor for VisiCalc, a spreadsheet app. But as they were working through it, the UI nature of the Macintosh made a killer app they never even expected, and they took the market for desktop publishing. So while they thought they were going to be all about building spreadsheets, they actually became all about desktop publishing, and that was their success. So there is a lot of wonderful things to learn about productization, but that whole make meaning and mantra is about understanding the boundaries and goals of your product. So things that may not resonate as being interconnected: Agile, DevOps, engineering, quality, and operations, teams, empowerment, productization. These things are all very much interrelated, and this is the way.